I finally played Mirror's Edge Catalyst after skipping it for years. Was it worth the wait, or did I waste the $10? I quite liked the original game, Mirror's Edge, when it released in 2008, so let's see if this sequel holds up. The first impression is that things are how I remember them from the first game. You do a short tutorial teaching you the basic controls, and it feels pretty fun, at the way your character's momentum and speed builds as you hold the forward button. I'd played with a controller, and the controls are a little odd. For example, you press left bumper to jump, but after a while you get the hang of things. But after the tutorial is when I started to have some apprehensions about the whole thing. For starters, it plops you into yet another one of these open world type experiences. You have this overview map of the city, and all sorts of icons to look at and sort through. Thankfully, you can press a button to bring up the legend and see what all the icons mean. So the game has tons of optional side content and side missions, and frankly I never cared to do any of it, and literally ignored every single piece of side content in the whole game, because it just didn't seem like a good use of time. I mean, I did 1 or 2 side missions, but I could already tell it was the typical copy-pasted filler. It's like they just made the whole game open world because that's what mainstream games are supposed to have, even if it doesn't service the gameplay experience. Ultimately, all the open world does here is add boring filler in between each main mission. I don't think the first game had any sort of open world like this. It was just constant fast-paced one mission to the next. So yeah, I never particularly enjoyed the whole open world vibe in this game, and it only serves to ruin the pacing. The controls are mostly fluid and fun. You get a good sense of momentum, and always being so high up and vertical makes it feel intense. However, a few things about the whole experience makes it feel kinda bad. For instance, the animation that plays whenever you fall from a slightly too high place, even when using the soft landing button, is just annoying and obnoxious. It swings your whole camera around wildly, and it can just be nauseating. Like imagine someone grabbing your head and jerking it around as you're playing. Not good. Every time you die, you get a big white screen, but for whatever reason it takes like 30 seconds to reload the last checkpoint, even on an NVMe drive. Though, at least the game is really generous with the checkpoints, and saves frequently, so when you die you pretty much never lose more than like 30 seconds of progress. What the open world experience offers is just opening your map, setting a waypoint to the next main mission, and then seeing if you can fast travel closer to it, and then running to the main mission. Usually, what will happen in these main mission icons, though, is you won't be able to fast travel there, and you will have to run around mindlessly to it anyway. Then, once you get there, it's a cutscene, and it makes you run across the map to trigger another cutscene. So you're just running from one place to the next, only triggering cutscenes and not much else. Finally, when you get into the actual core of the mission content, what does it offer? Well, really, the whole structure and content of pretty much every main mission is simply run across this rooftop place, interact with this machine or press a button, or escape from the guards and then go to the next main mission. That's kinda all you ever do. Sometimes you go inside these big office-type complex buildings and have to figure out how to leap off the walls, or crawl through the vents and find a way to the objective, but usually it's nothing more than just arriving somewhere and pressing a button or causing some sort of chaos. Now the worst part of this whole thing is, unlike the first game, this game has mandatory combat segments. It will throw you into an arena and make you do the most god-awful melee combat in order to progress. The combat in these segments is just terrible. It feels like this really weird beat-em-up game where there's different enemy types and you have to constantly vary up your attacks or they block you. But the animations and annoyingness of it all just makes it feel really frustrating and stupid. You have these taser guys that constantly tase you. You have a dozen guys shooting machine guns at you across the map. Meanwhile, you're just some unarmed girl supposed to meanderingly take them out one by one. It sucks. To make matters worse, all I really ended up doing is spamming the dodge button and then the heavy kick over and over and over for every single enemy for the whole game, because it actually seems to work and confuses and glitches out the shit AI and makes it a viable tactic to get past the shitty combat. These combat sections are no slouch either. Frequently I would die 10 times in a row before I could beat it. And it wasn't the kind of satisfying, rewarding challenge. It was more like, that was really stupid and annoying. I'm glad that's over with. You can't even pick up guns, which is something I remember you could do in the first game. Then there's these escape segments where you're kind of just meant to run as much as possible and absorb enemy bullets. There will be enemies shooting everywhere at you, and you're kind of just intended to soak up all their bullets in your runner's shield, which is this shield that generates the more you do moves like wall jumping and stuff. I'm not sure, the whole idea and mechanic behind it just felt awkward and bad. Like you're supposed to get shot dozens of times while running? Like what? And then it has this like GTA 4 kind of mechanic where it shows a GPS on the screen and the enemy bubble, and you need to stand outside the bubble and hide somewhere to lose the enemies. But none of the main missions really stand out at all, or even the locations make any sort of distinct visual impression. So that's another thing. The original game had a really sort of iconic, distinct art style, and things really did stand out in that game and were memorable. You had all sorts of different colored environments and areas. But however, in Mirror's Edge Catalyst, everything looks the same, and it's almost like a downgrade in visuals from the first game. Like the enemies look more like Power Rangers or something. Everything has this overly saturated childish brightness to it. It's all super futuristic in the way that looks cheap and tacky. None of the locations or environments stand out. Everything is just the same blur of corporate rooftops and office complexes. It's hard to describe exactly what I mean, but it just comes across as bland and really boring. Frequently, I just find myself feeling bored playing this, so much that I could barely finish more than 1 or 2 missions per session. I had to play the game in 1 hour maximum sessions, or else I would feel like going to sleep. I think it has a lot to do with the game just having no standout landmarks. You know, things like statues, memorable buildings, giant podiums, like anything. There's seemingly nothing of the sort. It's like the whole game is just copy-pasted assets, with no manual handcrafted care or charm. There's nothing that makes you go, oh yeah, it's this place. Everything just feels copy-paste. And in typical open-world slop, it has multiple skill trees, which kinda just made me eye-roll when I was introduced to it. There's 3 different skill trees: movement, gear, and combat. These are pretty much trivial. The movement one is already half filled out at the start of the game. The gear one automatically gets filled up as you progress through the game, and it forces you to get certain unlocks from it. The combat one is the only one you'll be using, as you save your points until the game forces you into these mandatory combat segments. Then you dump points into whatever sounds like it would help you in the combat. Stuff like more damage to enemies. You get skill points after each mission, or something. I don't really know, I barely gave a shit about it. Towards the end of the game, I almost had every single skill unlocked anyway, even without doing any side content. And the story, well, it's really uninteresting and dull. It's a lot of mumbo-jumbo technology jargon. Talk of big corporations being evil authoritarians taking over the world, and you and your gang of parkour athletes are apparently the only ones that can stop it or some shit. I kept getting a lot of vibes of The Matrix, like take the blue pill or the red pill kind of stuff. The antagonist wants to create a blue pill world, where all the residents are in virtual reality bliss, or something like that. And Faith, the main character, wants to stop it and give people a choice. I don't know, it all seems really derivative and uninspired. But worst of all, the characters are just not likable. I don't know, the story didn't really do anything for me. More often than not, I was just cringing at the dialogue and the characters. Thankfully, the game has an objective marker button, where you press a button called Runner's Vision, which lets a beam show up and guide you around the world. This allows you to just turn off your brain and mindlessly keep following this beam for consistent progress. I like that, because even if the game is mediocre, I can just use this feature to mindlessly rip through it. So I did. So it wasn't all that painful to make constant progress thanks to this. It can really be hit or miss though. Usually it will highlight objects in red, showing you this is where you should go. Other times it kinda just glitches out and shows you that your paths are impossible to reach, which makes you just scratch your head and think what you're missing. So even that mechanic is a mixed bag. Overall, it's not an awful game, it's just really mediocre and it could have been better. It's short, under 8 hours long, and it does have an open world, if for whatever reason someone is into that kind of thing after the credits roll. For me though, I just followed that red objective line mindlessly to the end credits. And towards the end of the game, the last 2 missions were so annoying and frustrating, I kept reassuring myself by saying, it's okay, there's only 1 mission left, because I just had enough at that point. 5 out of 10.
Submit and you won't be harmed.
Never.
No subject marked. Wanted subject spotted in the sector. Copy.